Russell Wilson really couldn't get much done on Sunday, threw 3 interceptions in a game. For the first time since 2020, 2 of those came on throws 15 or more yards downfield, and that continued a season-long struggle for Wilson, who's on pace for the second worst mark of his career on those throws. Now bring in Dan Orlovsky and Marcus Spears. Mina Kimes will join us shortly. But Dan, start with you. Does this move make sense for Denver?
It was inevitable. It had to be done. Something had to be done for this situation. I do not believe that we're in a world where Russell Wilson is totally, not to be absolved, but off the table for their organization moving forward. What went wrong was Nathaniel Hackett never got Russell to play to, one, the expectation level given the draft capital they gave up and the money they paid him, and then 2, to anywhere close to where he has in the past. There's become zero comfort in their offense. This is an offense that Nathaniel Hackett runs that is predicated on rhythm and timing, and his challenge was to get Russell to be a player that was based in, predicated upon rhythm and timing. He's not been that guy in the past. That never happened. They were never, as an offense, able to grow from running basic concepts and build their offense off of that. For weeks on weeks on weeks, this offense in their past game has struggled to operate very simple concepts. For all those reasons attached to it, that's why this move, with something had to happen, happened in Denver.
Dan, I 100% agree, but let me ask you a question, man, as the QB guru. The continuous skid, right? Never, like we talked about this Denver football team every other week, and none of the conversations geared towards a level of improvement that you would expect from professional teams or professional athletes, and even Russell Wilson. So how much, and this is going to be a crazy question in the football world, how much of the responsibility you thought lied on Nathaniel Hackett for the underdevelopment in this particular scheme for Russell Wilson?
Yeah, I would say a great chunk of it, unfortunately, because he's the head coach, and he was the head coach that was given that role and or opportunity to take a guy. I mean, Marcus, you know this. Russell Wilson was on a Hall of Fame trajectory. We've never seen this before, or at least in my experience, we've never seen a player that had MVP caliber years after year after year and Hall of Fame type of performance for a decade fall this fast, and he's not 37, 38, 39. This guy is still relatively young when it comes to the quarterback world. So I think Nathaniel Hackett's a good coach, and I'm disappointed it ended this way, but the burden does have to fall on him because he's the guy that was anointed or placed head coach and play caller.
It does. And Mina, look, they signed Russell Wilson. Not only did they trade all that for him, they signed him to a massive extension right before the season started. So it wasn't him that was going to go. If they are stuck with him, how big a problem is that for Denver moving forward?
Yeah, it's basically impossible for Denver to move on from Russell Wilson after this season because of the way the contract is structured. We're talking $100 million dead cap hit, $70 million even if they waited until after June. Realistically, if they were to do that and move on, it would happen in 2024 when you can then split up that second cap hit and it becomes a little bit more manageable. And Dan, that's a big part of the reason why this is a really complicated head coaching job for their next head coach, because Russell Wilson is more likely than not going to be your quarterback next year. You don't have that top draft pick because you traded it to Seattle. And it's, a good defense, but I think there are some issues elsewhere on the roster to put this beyond Russell Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett. I think Denver, for next season, has to do a couple of things. When they bring in a head coach, they have to say, hey, the expectations for 2023 are low. We know this is a reclamation project. You're going to try to get Russell Wilson to go back to using his legs more, maybe build a better offense around him, get him to buy into it. But we will let you bring in competition for him and acknowledge this is not a one-year job. You're coming in, the expectations are low, but also next year, when it is a possibility for us to move on, you will still be the head coach. Otherwise, if I was a coaching candidate, I would not take this job because it is definitely not attractive based on next year alone.
MK, some great points. First of all, I think it's the least attractive job in the NFL right now. Denver needs to find the needle in the haystack in many ways, and you touched on it a little bit. So the guy that comes and takes this job, number one, has to get Russell Wilson playing at a high level. So That's a small group of what guys believe that they are capable of doing that. Number two, whether you like this or not, you got to be willing to and want to work with Russell Wilson on a day-to-day basis. I don't know Russell. I can't say anything about that. But there is conversation and narrative attached to what that is like. And then three, not only do you have that burden, you also have to be a head coach for 52 other guys and be able to lead the football team. You can't just be the coach that gets the quarterback to play a little bit better. So not only is this not a desirable job because of all the things that we just touched upon, but that new head coach, and if we look at the guys that we think are the head coaching names, right? Defensively, we would see their defensive coordinator, that he would be number one. DeMeco Ryans for the San Francisco 49ers as a defensive coordinator. Eric Bieniemy maybe as an offensive guy. Shane Steichen, Ben Johnson, who's the play caller in Detroit. Are all those guys who are hot names right now going to attach themselves to this situation? That's where I think it's very tough.